home of free speech. Radio you won't hear anywhere else. Fiona Dutton, Play Talk UK.
Is adoption a selfish act or a loving gift? So you can call 01243 55 61 61. You can email talk@playradiouk.com, and you can Skype play.radio.uk. So who should be considered suitable for adoption? Is there such a thing as an ideal family? Who would be your ideal? Well, most agencies are now far more interested in what you have to offer a child than your income level. You don't have to follow a religion to be considered, and people from all ethnic groups are needed. Disabled people are not excluded. In fact, sometimes experience of disability is positively welcomed. However, everyone has to have a medical examination, and health issues have to be explored. You'd be CRB checked for criminal offences, but apart from offences against children, an offence does not necessarily exclude you. It's also not a requirement that you be heterosexual. Gay and lesbian individuals and couples are also eligible for adoption. And it's this issue that I particularly wanted to focus on this evening. And this is because I saw an article recently in the press about the protests of grandparents of two young brothers who are being placed for adoption with a gay couple. The article explained how the grandparents, an aunt and an uncle, have all offered to give the boys at age 6 and 9, a home, but they've been turned down without explanation. This is what the press reported. The boys had been introduced to the male gay couple in preparation for a formal adoption, but the family launched a legal battle in what is thought to be the first of its kind. So I ask you, is it selfish for a gay person or couple to adopt a child? Can they really provide a loving, stable home? Or are they just trying to fulfil some personal desire to be a mother or father? And does everyone have that right to be a parent? Or maybe you think gay and lesbians have just as much, if not more, to offer to a child needing a loving home. Now, I'm lucky to be joined on the line by Rob tonight. Now, Rob is a British gay man in his mid-30s. He's hoping to create a family through adoption. He lives in South London with his civil partner, Matthew, and they've been approved as adopters just last summer, wasn't it, Rob?
That's right, last summer, yeah.
So, and you're waiting for a suitable match, is that right?
Yes, we're still waiting. It's been a little while now, but hopefully it won't be too much longer.
Okay, so you've been through this adoption process yourself. Can you tell us what that procedure was like? I mean, did you go through exactly the same procedure as a heterosexual couple would?
It is exactly the same. There's no differences. I mean, the main thing that they are trying to ensure is that if it's a couple, that their relationship is stable and that they'll be able to stay together, for as long as the child needs,
Mm-hmm.
and that they've got all the relevant experience with children, an openness to everything involved with adoption, because it's so much different to, or can be very much different to normal parenting of birth children, because of all the quite often all the trauma and different issues that children in care have. So there's a whole range of complex things that they need to check on, to check that you're suitable to be an adoptive parent.
Okay, so you had a medical, and they had to do references on you, did they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you face any discrimination or prejudice yourselves? Did you come across any of that?
Not that we're aware of, no. I mean, we didn't notice anything.
That's good. And how long does the process take from start to finish,
From first application to an adoption agency to being placed with a child or children could be anywhere between a year and 4 years sometimes. I mean, 2 years I'd say is about average from what I know from other adopters. It takes generally about a year to go through the approval
actual
process.
procedure, right.
So the first stage is that you, as happened with us last summer, you get approved generally to adopt a child or children, and there might be guidelines as to, you might be suitable for 1 or 2 children or of up to a certain age. And then there's the matching process, which comes after that, which can be anywhere. It can be immediately after you're approved, but some people wait 2 or 3 years for the right match.
So you have to be really committed, don't you, to start this process, because you must have to kind of put your life on hold almost.
You do, yeah.
Must be difficult to make plans for the future.
Yes, you're kind of in limbo for quite a while, because whereas with pregnancy it's a long wait, but you know roughly how long it's going to be.
Yes, yeah, of course.
You kind of, like you say, you've got to be ready to have children at any point, but at the same time you can't do too much else. You can't plan long holidays or anything like that.
Now, I'm aware that you're well connected with other gay and lesbian adopters across the UK.
We're members of a group, which is it's mainly a social group. It's mostly about the children that have been adopted by gay parents to get to know other children that have also got gay parents, just for their own self-confidence.
Yes.
Confidence in themselves. And it's also great. I mean, we found it brilliant so far just to know other adopters that are going through the same thing with the same issues.
Well, I was going to ask, do you find that most councils are accepting and approachable to gay and lesbian couples, or do you find that some are more accepting than others? I mean, if you have sort of well connected across the UK, I guess you've spoken to people from various parts of the country about this. Yeah,
I mean, for us, we're in London, and I think not that surprisingly, most of the London boroughs are quite progressive, I'd say, and a lot have processed, lots of gay adopters and placed children with them. So it's there's probably not many London boroughs now that aren't experienced in that, but there are parts of the country where they won't. The local authority still won't have. Might not even have been approached by a lesbian or gay couple, or a single adopter. And I think people have widely different experiences around the country, between different local authorities and also between different social workers. Because even within a particular adoption agency or local authority, depending on who you get as your social worker, who stays with you through the whole process, that can make quite a difference as well. Some people, I think, have had knockbacks. Some people I've heard say, when they've contacted an adoption agency or local authority, they've had comments like, "Oh, we've already had a gay couple this year," as if there is a sort of quota that they don't want to go beyond, sort of thing. But most I'd say get a very good response and are treated fairly.
I mean, do the social workers have to give you reasons why they may turn down an application? I mean, how would you know if they were turning it down?
And that's one of. There's so many areas that it's not as consistent as you might imagine. That each local authority has a slightly different way of doing things. One of the most common reasons that we came across for not being taken on by a local authority is because of not being the right ethnic match for the children that they are likely to have coming up for adoption. For instance, in London, there are around the North London boroughs, when we were trying to be taken on, a lot of them had their books closed to white British adopters generally, because they try very hard to match the ethnicity. They know that most of the children that they've got that are coming up for adoption are of a different ethnic background, and they've got enough white British adopters on. How
do you feel about that, though? Do you think that's the right decision, wanting to place children with parents of the same ethnic background, or do you? Sorry, go on.
I think it's right to want to. I think it should, certainly, if at all possible, then I think evidence has shown that that's definitely the best thing for the child. But there comes a point where if the child's been languishing in care for a long time, you have to wonder, would it be better that they're with parents that might be of a different ethnic background, but would still be offering them a loving permanent home? So there's a lot of areas like that in adoption where it's such a grey area. You know, there's not a right or wrong.
Do we know how many children there are waiting to find a suitable home?
I believe about 5. I think there are about 5,000 children in care. I'm not sure exactly of the figures, whether they're all waiting for adoption.
No, I did try to find the figures out myself, but
it's a lot anyway. I know that there is a shortage of adopters as well. There's more children than there are adopters wanting to adopt them. But I know a big issue at the moment is the particularly black children. I think a lot of the adoption agencies are screaming out for black adopters because they just struggle to find homes for the black children.
Yeah, I mean, there's been these few cases in the press recently that have sort of attempted to highlight incidences where the family of the children have kind of almost revolted at the idea of the children being adopted by gay couples.
Yeah.
I mean, do these families have any say over who the children should be adopted by?
Again, that's not a definite yes or no. Generally,
does it vary? Does it?
The birth family don't have a say. They can express their wishes.
Okay.
And commonly that might be on grounds of religion. If they wish their children to be brought up Christian or Muslim or whatever, then they can state that preference, and that's often acted on. Beyond that, no, it's very much down to the social services and the process to make sure that the best possible match is found for the children.
Why do you think they've reacted in in such a way? I mean, do you have a gut instinct yourself when you hear stories like the ones that I mentioned in the introduction?
The biggest problem that I had in reading those articles was not with the birth family. It's with the press.
Okay.
For printing their story, because I think about 5,000 adoptions a year happen in the UK. I would have thought in most of those cases, children aren't given up for adoption anymore, or very rarely.
Yeah.
It's mostly because of abuse or neglect, or inability of the birth parents to parent, basically.
Yeah.
Drugs or
for whatever reason.
Or what have you. And although when you read the stories in the press, the stories always sound very black and white, simple, straightforward.
Yeah.
Once you've read quite a few profiles of children that are up for adoption and all the background, you realise just how complicated the stories are.
Yeah.
And it's when you've been through the process and are in the adoption, in the adoption process, when you read a story like that, it's so clear that there's an agenda that the press are trying to push, that they obviously have a problem with gay adoption, and I think more widely than that with adoption generally. It seems like that in some papers the knives are out for social services and the adoption system generally.
It does seem like that at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, which isn't helpful. I mean, there's been some blatant homophobia, and it's obviously not doing us as gay adopters any good. But I think the adoption system generally, I think it's giving a very skewed view to the public of how adoption works.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about religion as being one of the reasons, and I noticed comments from spokesperson from the Roman Catholic Church spoken out against adoption by gay and lesbian couples, saying that they condemned the decision and that the children's welfare could be jeopardised. It was a devastating decision that will have a serious impact on the welfare of the children. And they've been quoted as saying that there's an overwhelming body of evidence showing that same-sex relationships are inherently unstable and reduce life expectancy. But you yourself have been in a relationship for 12 years, is that right?
13, I think it is.
13.
I count now, but yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I think we have to remember that the children in question are the product of a heterosexual relationship that have, for one reason or another, failed to provide a stable home for those children.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, and I think another important point to remember when we're talking about who can and can't adopt, nobody has or expects, I don't think, the right to be able to adopt. You know, whether you're gay, straight, or whatever you are, you haven't got that right. What the law changed to in whenever it was, 2005, I think it was that gay couples can be assessed as adopters, can be assessed in the same way as straight adopters to see if they are suitable for adoption. And you know, there will be some gay people that don't have stable relationships, or that, you know, their lifestyle might not be suitable to be adoptive parents, or, you know, for whatever reason. But
and heterosexual,
exactly the same as straight people.
Absolutely.
You know, some of my friends who are gay are in stable relationships, and some aren't. And that's exactly the same as my straight friends.
Exactly.
And I don't think anyone would get through the 8 months to a year of the adoption process, the approval process, if they couldn't demonstrate that they've got a stable relationship, that they've got all the right abilities and skills to be a good adoptive parents. You can't just walk into it and you know, be allowed to adopt. You've got to prove yourself.
Yeah, and I think that you know, you could argue that gay and lesbian individuals or couples, you know, would consider parenting more because it's never actually going to happen by accident. You know, whereas it does with heterosexual couples.
You can't just fall into bed.
Exactly. So it is a more planned and thought through process, if that's the right word. You know,
No,
why do you want to be a parent? Do you mind me asking?
I think when I was little, I kind of had, or when I was younger, I kind of had a sense that I'd like to be a dad one day. Generally, I think probably everyone, because I grew up I didn't come out till I was 21, and until that point was kind of living a sort of straight life, if you like, just imagining having kids in the future. When I did finally come out as being gay and started having boyfriends, I kind of put the idea out of my head because I assumed that it wouldn't be a possibility. But after 10 years of being in a stable relationship and realising that the law has now said, you know, that we could be considered as adopters and to do that jointly, and we realise that, you know, we've got a lot of love to give and a lot of time and effort to put into it, and a nice house, and it just seemed like something that we, you know, really wanted to do, something that we could offer to a child or to children.
Now, Rob, you answered that question so well. It's obviously something that you've thought about, and I guess you've been asked that question before.
Yeah, it's probably the most commonly asked question, I think, by social workers or the approval panel. They all ask the question, and it's one of the hardest to answer because it's not something that
you can't put into words.
You can't. It is really hard to put into words. Yeah, and I think it's something that I guess we just evolved to want to you know, to nurture and to bring up children, really.
But you know, I have children. No one ever asked me.
No, that's the thing. And also, like, because I was thinking, well, it's because of the adoption process, but I wonder if straight adopters would be asked, why do you want to have children? Because they will generally have spent 5 or 10 years, you know, trying to have their own birth children, and it's because they're unable to that they turn to adoption. So I think it's as much as anything out of curiosity probably that people ask, because because it is still a relatively, you know, new and less common thing. But,
I just wanted to make the point, you know, that I think, you know, we put people like yourself under such scrutiny to, you know, well, explain yourself, why, you know, for
and
people...
I think people often if they don't know any better, assume that there will be a different motive there.
Mm.
You know, that maybe why do they want to have children? Well,
and yet,
and it is, it's the same reason as anyone else, really.
Yeah. So tell me, these cases that have been highlighted by the media recently, I mean, there have been a few that I'm aware of. You've said that you think the press have perhaps got a bit of an agenda there. But what happens to these children when the press get involved and stir this up? You know, what happens to those children? Does it actually delay them getting this, the stable home?
It shouldn't do. I would hope that it hasn't done in the cases that happened earlier this year. No, I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, what it will do is, I think the two stories that happened, I think they were, around the time of the adoptive placements happening, which is such a kind of critical, delicate time for the children and for the adoptive parents, and obviously a very upsetting time for the birth family. In most of the adoption cases, the birth family will be aggrieved. They won't necessarily agree with or understand the reasons that the children are being taken into care. As long as social services are making the right decisions, then in the vast majority of those cases, it will be in the best interest of the children. But there'll be members of the birth family that don't agree or don't understand that. And the papers that print these sorts of stories, they could have a queue of aggrieved members of birth families queuing up for years to come to offer their stories, but I think to print their stories in such a one-sided way and without, I think a lot of the harm was because they didn't go to anybody for an alternative view. If they'd gone to, for instance, the British Association of Adoption and Fostering, which is the big body in the UK that produce the guidelines for adoption agencies and do all that, they'd have something very clear to say on it about the suitability of gay people to adopt and the realities of the process. But they didn't. They went to the Catholic Church, who are clearly going to be coming out on the same side as the birth family in that particular case. So it was a very partial report.
I mean, while you've been going through while you went through the adoption process, have you? There must have been lots of things gone through your mind about, the future and what kind of parents you will be. Just as you do, for heterosexual couples. But do you worry that when a child is placed with you, that child may face prejudice or be excluded for having gay parents? Is that something that you've talked?
That's our very first and main worry, really, when we were first thinking about whether we were going to be able to form a family. Was is it going to be fair on the kids? Because yes, clearly having gay parents is something that children could be bullied about. When we went to have a chat with the first local authority that we went to see, that was something that we talked about with them, and they were very reassuring. They didn't try and say no, they're not going to be bullied, but they said children get bullied about such a wide range of things. Yes, it could be, it could be an additional thing, but I think the main thing that we can do is to give our children the confidence that their family is as valid as any other family.
Yeah.
As long as they've got that confidence within themselves, then that's the main thing, really. You're not going to stop it happening.
No.
There's a lot of bullying that could happen. I mean, any adopted child is going to have a sense of difference and could potentially be bullied or feel excluded for their difference. And,
so I guess
I think that's one of the areas that gay people are, have got something quite good to offer as adopters, because we've generally grown up with that sense of difference and have possibly, you might have experienced some bullying, and that's, in helping the children with that sense of difference through being adopted, we can draw on a lot of our own experience of that.
Yeah.
I think one of the positives.
So, with the amount of fertility treatments that are available now, I guess less heterosexual couples are coming forward to adopt. So, it's important, isn't it, that we work to improve the acceptance?
I don't know what the figures are, or whether the numbers have started coming down because of that. But if anything, you would think that technology and medicine is going to keep reducing infertility, and I think the number of gay people thinking of forming a family through adoption will very much be on the increase.
So, Rob, what would be your advice then? What advice would you give to a gay person or couple that are considering adoption?
Based on our experience, I think just read as much as you can, because there's so much to learn early on about the process itself, but also about children generally, and then all the specific issues around adopted children, all the various attachment disorders and things that they can need help with because of their experiences in life. So just learning as much as possible about that, getting childcare experience. But probably the main thing, I think, is just to find other people that are going through the same process to get to know and to talk to, because that was the biggest thing that helped us.
And you say there are support groups out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you Google, there's a general adoption support and advice. Adoption UK is a big charity for support, and there's also a group which is specifically for lesbian and gay adopters and their kids, kind of social group called New Family Social, which if you Google it, you'll find that.
Okay.
And there, it's just a really positive, welcoming group that is great for the kids. It's great to see kids that have been adopted by lesbian and gay adopters, and they're just getting on with being families and doing a good job of it.
Brilliant. Well, you've done a great job tonight, Rob. Thank you ever so much. I'm sorry I kept you longer than I said I would.
That's okay.
Thanks ever so much for your time. And you take care. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm Tommy Boyd. Every weekday afternoon on Play Talk UK from 5 until 7 UK time, we talk about the big issues facing planet Earth.
Play Talk UK. Fiona Dutton.
So, I've thought about this long and hard, and I've really questioned my own views and opinions. And I guess I've kind of questioned my own prejudice, really. And my personal view on this, and I'm going to completely wear my heart on my sleeve when I say this. First of all, I would say, first and foremost, priority for me has always got to be the welfare of the child. The child needs to be loved, to feel safe and secure, and to have stability. And surely all of those ingredients that I feel equally important to ensure a healthy psychological well-being, surely they can come in any guise. Surely everyone can be a good or a bad parent. And I know research has shown that sexuality has no bearing on the person's ability to be a good or a bad or indifferent parent. And I'd like to consider myself a very open-minded person. But I've had to ask myself this question, how would I, because it's one thing to sit there and to say that we have opinions and views on situations that don't really affect us. But to try and actually put ourselves in the position of these parents, these grandparents that have apparently been very unhappy about the prospect of their children going to a gay couple. So I've tried to put myself in that position, and even though, you know, as I said, I like to think that I don't have prejudice and I am open-minded. But I think it's all to do with what I see as tradition, and maybe there's an element of fear and, yeah, perhaps ignorance as well. But, you know, if my children, for whatever reason, if I was wiped off this planet tomorrow and my children were needing to be rehomed, as much as I can sit here and say, yes, you know, I don't see a problem with the being adopted by a gay couple because I don't have prejudice, you know, relating to anyone's sexuality, I would still sit here and say that I think, if I'm being completely honest, and, you know, shoot me down for saying it, but I think I would still prefer my children to go to a heterosexual couple. Now, as I say, I've really questioned these opinions to try and find out where that comes from. And maybe it is just, as I say, tradition. Maybe it's just that I'm frightened of something that's different to what I know. Does that make me a bad person? Am I wrong to have these views? I've got Sarah in the studio with me.
Hello.
What do you think, Sarah?
I agree with you that we have this inbuilt traditional view on relationships and bringing up children in heterosexual relationships. And very often it's very difficult for people to reason how you can take children from a heterosexual relationship and then put them in a relationship where they'd have two homosexual parents and see that as being a normal set of circumstances. So it's a very difficult thing, and I don't think it's wrong to feel like that and feel that, you know, how you just said, you know, if you were wiped off the planet and how you'd feel about it. I don't think you're wrong for saying that whatsoever, because it is an alien concept.
Yeah.
And
it is to me.
What you don't know, you kind of worry about and you fear and you're anxious about. But, you know, to be honest, I haven't really made my mind up on this particular matter, because it's very alien to me. But I think at the end of the day, if for any reason a child is being put up for adoption, whether it's because the parents don't want it, or it's a broken home and there's alcohol abuse, or there's physical abuse or emotional abuse, surely it's better that that child is placed with someone, doesn't matter what gender they are, what sexuality they are, what ethnic background they are, if they can give them a solid, stable home where they can feel warm and safe and comfortable, that should override everything.
It should do.
But it still goes against what we're naturally brought up to behave, and how through history we've been told to behave and how people have acted.
But even though we know that history doesn't necessarily, just because something's tradition, doesn't mean to say that it's right.
Oh, no. Exactly. So it's a very, very tricky one. And I think the gentleman you just had speaking to us was incredibly eloquent and very well read. And I think because of the process that people who decide to adopt have to go through, that it's not something they take lightly.
No.
And I think the fact you go through a process which takes a year plus means you're deadly serious on taking someone into your home, and that's hugely admirable.
Hello on line 3.
Hello, Fiona.
Hello. Is that Victor?
Viktor Huliganov.
How are you, Victor?
I am well, but I am afraid I have to add a different note to the debate so far.
Okay. Go ahead.
What I am wondering, listening to this very nice man, wanting to adopt a child, he didn't say whether he wanted to adopt a little boy or a little girl, but whether it is the one or the other, whatever child he liked to adopt, my question would be, who would be the mother? Himself or his partner?
Well, how do you determine mother? Define mother to me.
Well, I only know one thing. And that is that a mother and a father, they got different roles in the upbringing of the child.
Right. What role does the mother have?
Being put into a situation. If you believe in evolution, it's even evolution done it. If you believe not in evolution, then you can say that God did it. But whatever way, we are in a situation that everybody got in a natural family, a mother and a father. And these two parents, they have got a different way of influencing situations. So that one time, mother brings one set of skills because she is female, and the male is bringing a different set of skills. And then, of course, you do have broken families, what happened. But you don't create these from a beginning. You don't create deliberately situation where only male character is being influencing the child. That's almost like saying, put him into a home where there's only father or only mother. You just got the same times two.
Yeah, but I mean, as you...
You need to have both types of input. You need the yin and the yang.
As you've said yourself, there are situations where, premature death, for example, where the children lose one of the parents, and...
You wouldn't make that situation.
No, but they still... But the man or the woman still manages to go on and provide all the necessary needs for that child quite well, actually. It doesn't...
Because we know that family is stronger. Always the real family, the blood, is thicker than water. That's why I don't understand this case. Why, when the uncles and the grandparents all wanted this child,
allegedly,
they gave to completely different people. I really can't understand that.
No,
case.
but we don't know all the details of the case.
I accept that.
And
but
I have...
it seems on face value very strange.
Sorry, say it again.
I accept that we don't know everything, but from what we know, it seems very strange.
But, as I say, we don't know the details surrounding the rest of the family, and it might be that actually, and again, I'm not talking about this case in particular, because I don't know the details, but hypothetically, there might well be incidences where the immediate family around those children are also adding to the damage, psychological damage to those children. They might well be exposing those children to more physical and emotional harm or neglect.
Well, you're making a very, very serious accusation about
No, I'm not.
You don't even know.
No, I'm not. I said
That's
hypothetically.
shocking,
I'm saying hypothetically. You're saying that family is much stronger.
The idea that you're innocent until proven guilty. You're saying that these...
No, I'm questioning. No, I'm not. I'm questioning your statement that family is always stronger, and it's not. It's not.
Apparently several sets of aunties, uncles and these things. I accept that there might be situation. But if we don't know for a fact that this is not the situation, how can you go in prejudging that all of these aunties and uncles are worse than this completely unknown different couple?
Who's prejudging?
Well, you just said that you thought that because we didn't know everything about it.
How can you make the assumption that they are okay and that they are stronger than another couple?
I make the assumption that they are family and that they really love this child like is natural in a human family, unless I have the reason to think otherwise.
But some families can be...
reason to think otherwise,
no, but some people can be really cruel to other members of the family.
Are you saying these people are cruel to this child, that these uncles have been cruel? Is that what you're insinuating about them?
No, I'm not insinuating anything about those particular, as I've said, hypothetically. But you can't anymore make the assumption that the people that have allegedly said that they have come forward to adopt the children are any more able to give them a loving, stable, safe home any more than another couple. Family
So
is
I'm
not
saying
always
that
stronger.
The family, and that normally, other things being equal, that would mean that they know the child for longer, that they can give the idea of safety, and also, if they are in a situation where there is more than one gender in the parenting, there is more to add. I believe in women. I believe that women have a great deal to offer, as well as men, in the upbringing of a child.
Right.
Not one parent. Okay, you do get one parent family, and I know that the state is always anxious to break into families where there is a problem and take away the child if they can find an excuse to do so. This is the nanny state. But still, if we see that people are coping with the situation that God has given them, difficult situations, then if there is no abuse, we should not get into it. And then, when we consider the extended family, the aunties and the uncles, they should be also considered to be part of the family. The problem is, in our Western society, and I can tell you it's not so in Russia, not so in other parts of the world, we don't consider grandparents and uncles and aunties to really be family. Rather to give children to completely unknown people. This is so underlining the weakness of our society.
I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I don't know that's necessarily the case. There are so many children waiting to be adopted that I can't believe.
Are there so many?
Yes, there are.
So why is so much bureaucracy to stop? Anybody would think you want to, that there was scarcely any. The amount of bureaucracy that these people are having to go through. Do you know how difficult it is, for example, even to take a child from another country, like Romania or Africa? How difficult you have to go. Some people are so desperate, they are even paying bribes to do this. Hello?
Right. Yeah, no, I'm thinking about your question. I mean, but we're straying away from the point, really, aren't we?
Have we got statistics on how many people want children and how many children there are who want to be had?
There are around 5,000 children waiting to be placed with families.
How many families waiting to be placed with children?
I don't have those figures.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm sure it's not so easy to get those.
No, it's not. And I did try, believe me, because I like to have...
I believe you.
I like to have...
You're very thorough, Fiona. I
like to have all the information.
That they don't want to tell you.
Do you know that there's also 60,000 children in care in this country?
Yeah,
at the
they
moment.
Don't even put them up for adoption, these 60,000, because they like to have them in the state control so that people working for state can have an excuse to make a big portion of taxpayers' money for themselves and to keep control of these people, these children. The care homes are not a good place for children. They should be placed with families with a new mother and a new father, and not just two fathers or two mothers.
Yeah, but
if
I still
given a
take...
choice between two fathers and two mothers, I prefer two mothers to two fathers.
Why?
But really, they need a father and a mother. And if you're taking a child to a completely new situation and you've got so many people waiting, I believe you should give precedence to a family where you've got the traditional a father and a mother.
Why are two mothers, not over two fathers? Why?
Because I think that human beings, like most other animals, and I'm not really evolutionist, I don't believe in evolution, but still evolution is an interesting way to explain certain things to people who don't believe. And so, I say this, the way that all mammals are, the woman is equipped to be better handling the upbringing of children. First of all, she is bearing that child around for a longer time. She is equipped with two, I don't like to say on the radio, but two things in front what have got milk in. She has also inside her head completely different synapses, reactions, tendernesses. She's got different way of concentrating on things, ability to multitask, different way of thinking, different priorities. Women are not men. They are in many ways better than men in certain areas, and certainly...
But I think you're doing men a disservice. There are single fathers out there that are doing a great job.
There are, but usually, if a single parent cannot cope, it's usually single father and not single mother.
I don't know.
Single father who did great job. I don't want to undermine, but usually I can tell you, if there is a single parent who cannot cope and who throw in the towel, is going to be single father.
I don't agree with that.
You don't?
No, I don't. I don't.
No, why not?
I wish we had the statistics to back me up.
Too, but do you not accept that men and women are different?
Yeah, I do accept that they're different, but I do think that that a man and a woman can equally provide everything that a child needs. You know, and you know,
that men and women are equally good at parenting.
Yes, I do. Different, maybe.
And where do you base that on?
Just from he's human. Humans are amazing creatures, and I think that I don't believe that to be the best parent you have to have two breasts and a, you know.
Okay, but what about what the children themselves of mammals are hardwired to respond in one way to the person that they see as a mother and to the father. One time I came on and talked with, I think you were there and Tommy was there, we mentioned Piaget, and Tommy started to try to joke that it was Jean that was a lady, of course. Yes. It was the French Jean is a man. But Piaget say very clearly about the maternal deprivation and show, and this was done in experimentation. This is something which is standard psychology. You know, you wouldn't be able to deny it and stand up to a psychology exam. Maternal deprivation is more severe than paternal deprivation for children, and there's no getting around that. Even if you get a man who is as good as a woman, and I personally don't believe that there are that many men who are as good as the average woman at multitasking, at the tendernesses that the children need. And it comes because in the past, when human beings' race was young, the children stayed with the mothers until they were about 13, and then the men went off and they had an initiation ceremony and joined the men hunting. And for this reason, which is hundreds of thousands of years, if you believe in evolution. For this reason alone, you can't change all the hardwiring in just a couple of generations. So well, it's to say that the men and women are the same. But even if they were, the children are also hardwired to respond one way to mother, another way to father.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand about maternal deprivation, but I think there's more involved than just being a mother. And I would question the amount of, I think if they were to repeat the studies that Piaget carried out, I don't know that the figures, the results would show exactly the same. Listen, do you know what? I'm running out of time.
Yeah, who wanted to adopt this child. If they were to have a house together with two lesbians and have like 4 people together taking responsibility, I would sooner agree to this than what they're planning now.
Why? That's a ridiculous thing to say.
Why? Because you have the input from the different types, the yin and the yang.
Oh, for goodness sake. Listen, I've got to go.
And the masculine coming in.
I've got to yin-yang off because I'm getting really behind with my breaks. It's lovely to chat to you, Viktor. You enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Part of the Something Corporation. For more details, go to something...